Thank you so much for the introduction. So hi, I'm just going to share my. I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, madam. You are audible.
Thank you, sir. So a very good morning to all of you. I think we are at a like on an important topic and the current scenario which demands such an awareness. Right from patents, like we have come up till technology transfer, commercialization, and things like that. I would just be sharing my presentation. Yeah. Hope you're able to see my presentations. Are you able to see my screen, the topic of the day? Thank you, sir. When we learn about the process of innovation, development, technology readiness level, commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer, I like to come up with what views does the team have on innovation development. Right? We innovating something, we talk about developing something, we talk about services or the implementation of IT and IT related or enabled services right now. So what does this innovation actually consist of? Uh, there are several types of innovation development or which is now commonly heard and is heard as a common buzzword right now. So what is innovation development? It's simply problem solving, right? A problem in the industry, a problem anywhere, and you pick up that problem, identify that problem, because identification of the problem is the primary step in order to proceed for innovation, right? So once the problem is identified, there could be of strategies where the solutions. First thing, there could not at all be a solution is identified, there is no solution, or there could be a solution is inadequate to address that particular problem. The other way around it is whether they have a solution, but the solution is only meant to a particular set of people, or in market we call them as customers. So a particular set of customers who could be paying for that particular invention or that particular problem. Addressing such a solution, could probably be addressed. And whenever solutions are being defined or are being identified or brought up in order to solve particular problem, then innovation is automatically in a developmental phase. The next question comes up is, innovation always, is it that we talk about innovation development, and does the innovation always need to be technical? In any answers? Is it about technical problems, addressing any technical problems, and those solutions are going to be called as innovation development, or how does that work? Any other views that people have? Hope I'm audible. Yeah.
Yes, you are audible, madam.
Okay. Because this is an online session, I just wanted it to be a bit interactive,
Yes, madam.
so that we will not miss the track. Yeah. So
Okay, madam.
do you all think, or anybody, who would contradict that innovation is always technical in nature? Does innovation always need to be technical in nature? So whenever there is a development, whenever there is a solution, could this always be linked to a technical thing, or could the solutions be non-technical as well? Well, there could always be a chance of being it a non-technical solution as well. So wherever innovation develops, it need not be technical. It could always be a common solution to a known problem, or a solution where nobody have paid any attention to, or nobody have had thought about that particular solution. So when we move towards, okay, we have seen that, okay, addressing a particular problem, a solution happens to be the seed of innovation. Now we would just move to know what are the different innovations. So there are discrete levels, like whenever the problem is not very well known, or whenever the problem is known, or whenever the solution address the problem which is not, which is well known, and it depends on the domain. How well do we know the domain, and how don't we know the domain? But basically, there are 4 types of inventions that usually go ahead. The first kind of basic innovation is called as basic research. This is usually seen at most of the academic institutions level. It's quite common for any R&D institute, or for instance, any of the labs where research is being done. This basic research helps us to establish the facts on which the products, or on which the further product or the service of the market depends. So this is the basic research that helps us, to understand the scenario, and it could not always. These are the continuity of the existing innovations usually that goes on. It could either be a ground breakthrough innovation as well. Sometimes the basic research would lead you to a breakthrough innovation. For example, the MRI, right? Innovation of that particular, because it is a known technique. We all know how water molecules align when it aligns to the direction of the magnetic field. We know that we have some connections in the flow of the inside, you call it as fluids in the human body, that which reacts with the magnetism exteriorly, right? So this is a known concept. But when the MRI is altogether have come up, it is one of those, the basic research is working on the fluid part of the human tissue, which is translated into breakthrough innovation. The other thing that I would like to tell here is the invention of the iPhone. When iPhone first came up, the first model was released, so it was a breakthrough at that point of time, right? So breakthrough innovation is one of the other inventions. The other types of inventions that we call about is disruptive innovations. So these disruptive innovations could be a problem, known solutions to many, but there could be, as I told you, it addressed only to a particular sector of people. For example, the costly drugs, whenever the methods of preparations of few of the innovations, they could be very economical. And most of the innovations that are happening, when you break it down to be more economical, more widely available to the public, then such kind of disruptive innovations do arise. It's not altogether a new sort of, innovation that we are seeing there. The best example for this would be the OTT, right? The OTT platforms, it is not new to, view certain, components on a streamlined network. But when such OTT platforms have come up, so this is believed to be a disruptive technology which disrupts all the cable operators as well. The cryptocurrency, for example, it disrupts the methodology of paying and handling the cash, while the 3D printers, they are believed to disrupt the manufacturing industry right now. The other thing that we have come up in our medical coding cancer by editing the genes, though inventions have certain limitations, certain ethical procedures, but usually what it is done, see, all of the drugs do have some sort of a side effect which was not detected or which could be detected as well. The risk to benefit ratio or the benefit to risk ratio is always taken into account when you decide to develop an innovation, to support it, to get into the market or not. The recent that we have seen was with the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, right? When they came into picture, nobody knew that there are COVID vaccines and we are not sure about their side effects. There were few of the pitfalls, but still people didn't care because it is 6 or a minimal number compared to the large number of population taking a benefit out of it. So such benefit to risk ratios always are the crux in deciding whether to proceed with innovation development or not. I don't know if you have heard this particular technology called Li-Fi, where this is the fastest mode where a simple fixation of a microchip would into the LED bulb will allow you to transmit a speed of Wi-Fi which is 10x faster than that transmitted by a Wi-Fi, and this is through a light that it is being transferred. So the medium here is the light, and they have found that it also transfers the data at a rate of 1 gigabit per second, which is fast than compared to the normal Wi-Fi we actually. These technologies are few of the examples which are known to be in nature. The other sort of technologies or innovation that we call about is called as sustaining innovation. They actually help us to adhere to the actual innovation that either the firm or the R&D, any of them in that particular line does. So it keeps the technology live throughout the thing. For instance, after event of a particular technology, the technology or the newer versions of the technologies sometimes could be sustaining innovations. These just keep the technologies in life. These just keep the innovation or the basic product line live. But the actual, innovation that is not new. So these are the different innovation development types that we usually define them in business. The innovation life cycle. So what it takes for an innovation life cycle. So any innovation to be developed, it needs to be conceptualized, right? So once they conceptualize, the basic idea, and they usually dig out whether what field, what opportunity spaces are there, how do we develop. Like you write your R&D, like your thesis, the budgeting of the thesis, the objective of a project, and then you tend to see how everything, the resource planning or the funds planning and everything goes on. So this is similar to that. So you just set up your initial and then you like checking for what are the things that are added in order to increase the efficiency of that particular product or that particular idea of yours. It could be evaluation. In medical terminology, like we usually see the evaluation of IP or the technology, where the projections along with the market penetration or the HTA reports and things like that are evaluated. So once they fall in line, then we define the value proposition of that particular as to what sort of does it solve, what benefit does it actually add or bring to the table or to the market or to the mankind as such. Then we also need to define a business model. One of the best examples for a business model was one of the companies, I think it was Nike, or it probably should be Nike, who initially, before deploying the product, they actually went and have gone through their business models, their revenue making model, and until they were sure of hitting or making a perfect plan where they would hit, they did not open up. So there had been models which are not solely based on ideas, but it could be models which also took help of the team as well. For example, most of the products right now, like the unicorns, if you see, including the Uber or Amazon, so it is not the actual. They do not have a product of themselves that they could sell it to the people, but it is the business model they try to define it and adhere to and go about it, right? So on what your idea and how structured your business model is and what is the groundwork that you did, right? Other thing for the innovation that we would look about is a minimum launch of a minimum viable product. So it is not opening up at a full scale, so we go a bit conservatively. We just release, or if it is a product session, we just release a few of the devices, test the market, and then go ahead. But be very careful at this step, because this could also result in shutting down the companies. The best example was at US itself, where there was a machine, a product which actually prepared juices which are similar to the ones that are done at home. And the basic thing here was people need to buy a pouch of a device, like pouch of the vegetable juice concentrate, which goes inside the machine. Just squeeze, the machine just squeezes these particular concentrates of the fruits, and then they would be mixed with the variety that people would want to. So what happened was, later on, once released into the market, later on people realized that it was just squeezing off those packed fruit concentrates, which they did it manually. So soon the device production was ceased and the company had to look back. So a minimum viable product, that which picks up and takes it up, is also a very good strategical point that one should remember. This all works out for engineering or non-pharmaceutical and pharmaceutical innovation picture, or in the it's not so easy, because they need to establish safety and efficacy of that particular. Then there would be clinical trials which would actually build up, and then they would certify whether to go ahead with the product or not. And building and scaling of the inventions or the product is also one of the key things, and it is here that most of the people would require help in. So before understanding the TRL that we wanted to know, there is a particular thing called as TCL. So this is called as a technology life cycle, which is usually in the S curve. And this usually, when it is talked upon, because it is mostly technical, if at all we'll have to talk, usually, or even for the services sector, there could be a phase where enough R&D is done to identify what are the problems and then finding out the solutions. So the first phase of this S curve or TCL is called as the R&D phase. The curve, the part which is right below the x-axis. So this is called as R&D phase, also called as the bleeding edge, because here this is a totally non-yielding part of any innovation cycle. You could expect nothing, not even a return that you could expect when people are at this particular phase. So there would be nothing, no returns in the R&D phase. It is just working out what will work out for the best of your innovation at that particular point of time. It is only after it crosses the x-axis and get up to the phase, which is called A. So till here, it is developing and strengthening your R&D up till the point A. So A is called the ascent phase, and after that particular tipping point, then you are into a leading edge up till the phase M. So the M is what we call as maturity phase. So here the invention have seen its full potential, as to beyond that it couldn't go. So this is the maturity level. After this maturity, and slowly it would decline. So this particular phase where it declines, it could be of several factors. It could be either obsoleteness, and mind you, this phase of TCL, the curve could be very shorter and very longer in some instances. For example, if you take a pharma industry, the R&D portion of that would be very vast, because it has to develop, it has to reach to a point A where it crosses at least the phase 2 clinical trials in order to take it up to the market, and then it could realize all its funds by reaching the maturity phase. But if it goes down, the declination sometimes because of various factors, in which P is one of the factors, the intellectual property, the time period that is left for the technology to rule or to have a monopoly is one of the issue. Sometimes the obsoleteness of the technology would also give you a decline phase. The best examples of this were the DVDs or the VCR players that we had quite long back. The R&D was good. There were devices which could give you a picture effect. But as soon as they reached the maturity, they were about to reach the maturity phase, there were advent of CDs in picture, or the online platforms, or different means where it was no more a cassette that which played the movie, right? At that time, invention itself had a limitation in time because of obsoleteness. It actually declined. So ascent phase is usually a secured phase whenever technical happen. It is not in the R&D phase, but as soon as it raises, to reach the ascent phase, this is the most lucrative areas where investments usually are made, right? And it is a area, it is a where the return on investment, whatever we put in, the reap usually is seeked at the maturity. And at decline phase, it's a bit tricky, because sometimes the life of the product or the life of the innovation could be very long. We could use that, and there would be like allied businesses or allied products that could come up leading the main product as well, right? And one more thing, there are several stages, like in other terms, like you define it as an innovation stage where R&D is done, a syndication stage where it is growing, a diffusion stage where it is diffused into the market, and substitution stage where it fades away. A quick run and fading is also not good, because generally say that technologies which pick up faster would also have a flaw of going faster. So that is one of the balance that we should keep in mind whenever we deal with innovations and their life cycles. It is always product and the market, and also there could be even the market penetration depends on quite few aspects, because there could be there should be people who could accept the innovation as well. So they would majority accept, early acceptors, whenever the technology is given up, whenever there is an updation of your phones or any technology, there could be early bit of a part of customers who would readily accept or take that innovation, right? And later on there could be acceptors who are forced to, and usually the percentage of these two depends. It is 64% of the total population whenever we classify them as innovators are one of the things, early acceptors are there, late acceptors are there, and laggards are there who will never accept the technology at all. and they amount nearly to 16.5%. Right. So this usually depends on the technology, the timing of the technology, when you are going to release it, and to what community, because each of the products would also define the customers to which it is targeting. I use most of the terms like customers, market penetration, and things like that, because we are just going to discuss about the commercial innovation. It is not the innovation passion towards it that we create that innovations here in order to sell them or in order to take them into the market. Now coming to the actual topic, like what's the technology readiness level. Usually, when you see such a scale, a technology readiness level, that which measures how ready the technologies is, it was actually developed by NASA. In 1970, conceived this particular for a Jupiter orbital spacecraft, and it developed a certain procedures or a steps where it could assess the methodology, where it could report whether the inventions that it developed were up to the mark to be used and deployed and used in the actual usage or not. The main thing was, it developed certain parts which were used in the spacecrafts, but they were not sure enough whether the parts functioned well if they were taken into that space in actual real conditions. So for that particular TRL was first time, brought into picture. And usually this was used to quantify risks or, safety or investment schedule or the performance of any particular technology that was developed. And it was basically developed to assess such parameters for critical components. When I say critical components, say for example, you have a car, right? So the assessment is not about the handle for such NASA. It was rather on the engine side. If any engine component failure or engine failure, that was the component for that, for which it actually run the TRL cycle. Various levels in the TRL cycles, starting from 1 to 9. Right. So what does this 1, 2, 3, the phases of TRLs indicate? So basically, when one conceives an idea, as I told you, so it is the early R&D that one does, that we saw in our TCL, right? So the similar thing that we could adopt here is, it is the basic research that one does. So 1 and 2, it is more or less the basic principles which are adaptive or which are actually put into practice to give a direction to what product or what service would you come up with. The 2 to the other stages like till 4 will give you the feasibility of the research, whether it proves to be really worthy enough that I could pursue it without any failure and give it into the market or not, is what it is determining. So the level 2, usually, as I told you, it is a concept or application which adopts the basic principles or the conception of an idea in 1, and then 2 is done. At 3, it is a concept demonstrated, which is analytically or experimentally that you do it. And level 4 is the TRL level, where you actually demonstrate your lab environments, and the elements are being demonstrated at a particular lab with relevant studies, right? It could, yes, if it is a mechanical, a testing parameter, it parameter test, or it could be any of the parameters which could which are considered to be a key element of any particular technology that could be demonstrated at a lab. Now, when you go to a level 5, so usually these elements are to be demonstrated, like again the validation of the technical features, you will be demonstrating it in the relevant environment, like where this actual thing would be subjective to or would be used at. Sixth stage, you deliver or you demonstrate in that relevant environments. You pick up the data and you would be able to give that. Stage 7, with all the modifications, with all the feedbacks, it could be to any of the product. It could be even to a common product like clothing also, right? So the final, after collecting all the feedback, after field testing it, then you would come up to certain conclusions, and then you would finally make the deliverable demonstrated in operation. The other 8th level is when you deliver a qualified thing is thoroughly tested and demonstrated. There is a very minute difference between level 7 and level 8. There were some watercrafts actually to relate to this. Why NASA, when it developed, there were certain devices like crafts which were used where people would sit. So while they looked at that device, or when that device was running, it was fabulous. But people actually it, and it was unable to perform well in adverse conditions. When if it is normal testing conditions, we would create an artificial environment for that. So the boat was very good when such environments were there. But when something ad hoc, something unplanned event would happen, it was not so safe for the boat, and usually it dealt to an adverse effect, which was very unexpected, and they had to call device and again test it and use and do such kind of things. So level 7 and level 8, they differentiate between the actual deliverable which is demonstrated as a prototype, and 8 is, it is fully it is a calibrated, very good tested methodology which is demonstrated, which could be actually used by the public as well. So level 9 is your use of that particular thing that you develop, right? And sometimes it could vary. Now this is the basic thing that was developed initially. It took various changes. When you see this, universities, when this 1 to 9 scale, this is one more representation of the TRL, where the stage 1, it remains the same, the basic principles or basic ideation that you take, to which the basic principle is what you apply, and the concept of developing it and testing comes here itself. And at 3, your prototyping, proof of concept that you usually do it, the prototype that we usually is at this particular stage itself. So 1, 2, 3 being done by the universities or any academia. They collect the informations, but after that, technology validation in lab, because not all the academic institutions or not all the research facilities will have the validation parameters with them. The lab should be very well funded in order to establish a validation in order to conduct validation of a particular technology. So right from 4, the 4 actually starts with technology validation in lab. The 5th is in same validation but in operation. The 6th stage is where the technology is being demonstrated in operation. The 7th stage is where the system demonstration in the real, put it inside a system where this particular innovation of yours should be working well, should be doing the purpose for what it is being developed, right? The 8th stage is when it is complete and qualified to be ready to use in the market. The ninth is when the actual proof of real world system operation is being done. Usually when parameters are, or when things are being understood, so there are wide ranges of challenges. It could be 4 to 7 stages are a bit difficult. These are usually termed like from itself to the 6th stage, because 7th, okay, because when it is, it could translate it when there are very minimal failures where devices or the innovations do well at 6 and translate to 7. But when generally innovation, the TRL cycle is measured, usually the 3.5 to 6 is what we term, usually is termed as valley of death. The reasons are many. It could be a basic research where the applied research is being implemented, and the technology development actually is a big challenge there. The product, because there are n number, it could be either a product challenge where the product, by the time it comes up to this stage, it could be obsolete, as I told you, or there could be better products addressing these challenges better than the one that was invented or better than the one that was found out. Other thing is the performance rate. Even in order to get a patent for a particular technology which is known, you must have to demonstrate that it is quite very efficient, or very cost, that which has a cost benefit in comparison. The other thing is it is more sustainable in nature, right? So these could be the various product challenges. Similarly, for business challenges, the cost is one of the things that determines the penetration ratio of a product, right? So the cost challenges, costs would be one of the challenge, and how fast is that produced? You have a demand. So this basically also will fall on a demand and supply ratios that have to be calculated. And how higher are your return on investment? As I told you, when you grow up to a maturity phase, how much would this investment yield you back is one of the things that are usually calculated. Other things are the innovation challenges. It really be a technology that could be accepted and readily commercialized? Would people wanting it to buy? Would the manufacturers that you intend to sell them, usually accept this particular thing of yours? Is one of the other criteria. And what could be the marketing and sales research that one could do? Most of the educational institutes are not basically financial institute. They are not for profit institutes. They usually lack the skills in assessing the market or the sales of a particular technology that they are actually working in, because it is due to passion, or the research is picked up because the person who does the research is capable of, rather than checking on whether that particular research would be accepted by the market. Is there a need for it? Or at least a check on, is the market ready to accept such a futuristic product, is also sometimes a question to be answered. And of course, the customer feedbacks, these feedbacks could be from anybody. It could be from customers, it could be from your known friends, it could be from a closed group of intellectual people to whom you present the invention as well. So innovation challenges are one of the roadblocks, and the process challenges, as I told you, universities or academic institutions lack few of the resources or experience that could translate the basic research into a available in the market. And the other thing is that industry doesn't have the enough time to mentor, or to push this particular invention, to make up this particular invention adaptive to a marketing resign. So the recipe has to be well mixed or well prepared by the support of industry as well, where here these things are usually taken care or looked at. Other thing that usually, if it is a if clinical evaluation also have to be done. So TRL1 is a potential application or where the basic research, the basic principles are being observed. The TRL2 is an area applied research comes in. The hypothesis, the testing or the initial proof of concept. Usually it has to be demonstrated in number of trials at TRL2. The TRL3 is where your project plan comes into picture. The device characteristics or the product characteristics documents and project proposals with the proof of concept phase that you have developed in TRL2 has to be adopted here. The TRL4 talks about the design and development, whether the POC, the proof of concept, and the safety of, if it is a medical device, the safety of device, if it is used internally, have to be confirmed with, right? And if it is a diagnostic device, the proof of concept that it is really calculating or diagnosing the particular thing for which it is designed has to be taken care of. TRL5 is a standardization phase where validation of the POC, proof of concept or the prototype, is being simulated, is being tested in an environment. For instance, if it is a kind of a drug-eluting, say for example, a stent or drug-eluting kind of a substance, then usually it is tested related environment inside the lab. So such kind of standardizations could be done. And if it is an engineering, say for example, antennas, then it should also be tested whether it is in the standards which are prescribed authorities or not. For medical inventions or the pharma inventions, you have a clinical trials of the functional prototype as well. Then you have a tech transfer from of that deployed or developed, and then you would be having clinical evaluation. After technology transfer, it is very often that people to invest in an upcoming area where if it is in clinical trials, it's not that you accept a risk, invite a risk by spending whole lot of amount. So usually it is done in various things. I'll discuss those things with you. And then comes the commercialization phase where the product is ready, it is into the market, and they have done some studies on the post-market surveillance where they had a feedback, and it was, it could be good or bad. It could be a recall of the product or an ongoing support of that particular product. Any doubt still here? Any doubts?
Questions from what technology performance level and
Sorry, sir.
Innovative.
Can you repeat the question? Can you please repeat the question, sir?
Yes. What are the efficiency levels which is technically or economically suitable for innovative startups?
Your voice is breaking, sir, actually. So I am unable to hear. Can you please come up again? What are the
target performance efficiency levels?
Okay.
Target performance technically and economically for innovative startups.
Okay, and it depends usually on what kind of startup, like what product is the startup pursuing. Say, for example, if it is a service level, you need not demonstrate that huge unless and until you adopt an IT for which, a technical component which does that thing for you. It could be similar to that of a, say for example, I would just take you through one of the versions where we have prepared some alpha version, say for example the beta versions that are to be tested. The performance of that when they are ready to demonstrate is one of the parameter usually. And TRL, when you just see the TRL, it could be any TRL that the usual investments run in. It depends on the investors who would take a decision on at what stage invest in my and usually the evaluation or setting up of standards is at TRL 3 that we would have to show a proof of concept by if you demonstrate the POC, the proof of concept, it is regarded to be the 3. But if you are developing, say for example, I have one of the in one of the presentations I have heard one of the students talking about a helmet which could safeguard or something, the blink of if the person falls asleep or not. So giving them the models, running them through the simulations, because that is what the invention is talking about. So running through the validation process is their crux. There was another student group which was talking about adapting a diagnostic tool where they collect people and they predict if that particular patient is affected by some disease or not. For this particular model, there are n number of factors. There is age that they'll have to demonstrate. There are many combinations and permutations that they would have to show, along with the diagnostic X-rays of the patient that they wanted to study. So each of these components should be clubbed for them. For such a startup, then the technical evaluation, a good TRL would be 7, because it is something that is predicting a disease in a person which is related to a life of that particular person. So it depends basically on kind of the startup is involved. Hope I answered your question, sir.
Yes, madam. Madam, another one. So many in our college, in our parents community, they are all telling that we have to start our own business so that we can give jobs, we seek jobs. How to decide myself, am I right person to start a company or not? Are there any factors that make me that I can start my business right now? Likewise.
Yeah, it's usually, if you ask me as an entrepreneur, it's usually the intuition that one has, the belief on your product. But whenever they do the product profiling, like if you start a product, building up, your own product, or if you start building up a service model, usually the inventor falls, or he or she, they evaluate as if it's their own baby. They are biased to validating a technology. Whenever the evaluation of a technology comes into picture, they would evaluate it in a biased mode, because they are always favorable of the particular technology, the product, or the service that they usually come up with. For them, it is exciting. But the practical enablement and the sustenance is always a factor of a 50-50% yes and no that I'll have to tell you, because it depends on various like parameters. It could be market acceptance, it could be the market penetration. Even though the market is ready, it depends on how quick can they advertise, and they could populate their technology within the people. So it depends on many factors. The idea of being in an entrepreneurial mindset is always good, but how far would he or she be successful? It always depends on the strategies and many factors which could be even unpredictable. For instance, the COVID, it altogether changed the paradigm. Like people were buying assets, constructing a physical office space, but when you come into the real picture of what's going on, it's totally virtual, that we all are connected. So it's always unpredictable. It could be in our hands. It also depends on it adopts it as well.
Madam, last one, madam, in this particular topic.
Yes.
People say that if we start a company, prior to starting a particular company, we have to work in that particular area in order to have research in that area and exposure to the particular technology that we are going to use in the commercial
Hello.
field. Is it, madam? Madam, am I audible, madam? Hello, madam, am I audible to you, madam?
I lost your. Yeah, now
okay,
you are audible, sir.
Okay, madam. Particularly here, so many people will be starting different types of companies, so madam.
Yes,
One
sir.
of the question is that people are telling that in order to start a company, first of all, we have to work in that particular technology so that we can understand the market level as well as the start at that particular area. Is it compulsory to work in that one, or directly we can join the company? Right?
Sir, I'll tell you one of the stories that I have heard in my at my ISB when I was doing my studies there.
Okay.
The first question that the professor asked us in the class at ISB was, how many of you wanted to go in spend details? And, he just wanted to give us a case study. We all, being students, we stood up. Then he told us one example. One day, one of the famous, very top corporations in the world, the manager was called up. There was an interview conducted with him, and the person who was asking the questions, she went to him and she asked, now tell me, you are market, how are you going to grow, and what had you made till now, and what you did. Then he asked, he just stopped her. He just gave her, served her good snacks and things like that. And he asked her to wait for 2 minutes, and he called inside. Now he asked them to her. So whatever, you were asking something about my financial, my account person, you could talk. Now you were asking on our technical front. So here is our seat to him. So I do not have the capability to, properly understand, or I'm not so very well educated to command on the business. I have the minds to run, and I know from which people could I get those sort of works, is what he said. So either you have this or have the ability to get the work done. It works. Anything works.
Okay, madam. It's nice. That's all for this particular one, madam. You can continue, madam.
Sure. There is one question from Geetika Prasanna. You can unmute if you can, Geetika, or type in the chat box. I see the hand rise. So, yeah. Are there any? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Madam, we have muted all the others, madam. We will collect that particular questions and we will ask at the end, madam.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay.
So once again, we'll just go back.
Okay. Okay, madam. You continue, madam.
Yeah. So I'll just go back to the presentation again. I'll just share the screen once again. Are you able to see the presentation again, sir?
Yes, madam, we can see.
Yeah. So now we just have come across, or we have just gone through the different like innovation cycle, for instance, or the journey of innovation, how the TRLs would be there. TRLs is only an understanding on whether the product is ready to be commercialized. See, it is not actually the technology readiness level to buy the product. It is always the technology readiness level to reduce the risk, to calculate how risk is it. How, whenever one invests in that particular technology, by seeing or looking at the TRL level, he would know what journey of this product will I have to go ahead with. Did it complete this phase? Not yet. Then how am I going to, in order to take this product from here to the market, I would have to get it tested in the lab. I would have to develop the prototype. So when I'm developing the prototype, I could be successful or so. It is always a risk calculation that one actually approaches. Now, the second phase, whenever we are talking about commercialization and technology transfer, whatever level our technology is at, or whatever thing that we have, say for example, most of the innovations require some fuel to run through different phases of the cycle. You have a proof, you have a concept, and you demonstrate it in a limited environment, and then you wanted to test it and take it to newer heights. That requires a lot of efforts. It could be sometimes a funds issue. It could mostly, it could be funds because it could not have a certain equipment. Again, to invest in that equipment, you need funds. So all these things usually, and you need some expertise to guide you on that. You have an equipment, you should have an expertise to teach you how to run on that particular machine that they have in the lab. So there are many things that could curb or that could withhold that particular invention and its cycle. However, usually whenever a lab to market innovations are usually taken care of, the transfer of technology is what usually is called in order to adopt the technology for commercialization. Usually in the Western countries, they have separate offices called as TTOs. The technology transfer offices are there. So these offices, what they do, they give a free hand. Usually when, as far as the universities that I have seen till now here, the first thing that they have in the technology for cells, inventors are allowed to do whatever they want as long as they prove, they enable that they are doing something worthy. Nobody would object that. But howsoever, they would check with their technology transfer offices, if at all, if it has a commercial value. There is one lady in the university that right now I just went at Houston, who actually invented something in her lab and got it commercialized. She got the royalty. She is happily enjoying it. It is only a small experiment that she did in her lab. And any lab to market, the technology has to start with basic research. The basic adaptation of the technology, applying these principles to translational research, where this basic research converts into a workable product or demonstrated product, where the prototypes or the model of such a device could be demonstrated further. And after that, licensing is usually done. The universities usually, whenever they talk about commercialization, the basic research is never commercialized. If it is a basic research that you want to commercialize it, it would become an investment, but not a sale of that particular technology, because it is an idea in the air that we are going to talk. Right? If I would say I'm going to make water out of the air, I'm building castles in the air. There is no proof of concept with me, but this is my basic idea. But when I say I'm using this particular technology to build that kind of a device, and then I go and implement using of filters, and then I draw the things as to what the steps would be, what are the objectives, what is the components which are required to demonstrate or build up such product. All these things are going to be my basic research itself. It is not the actual translational research that I am going to build. The translational research would kick off when such a product is actually being constructed, and a demo of that usually is what we will give it in product demonstration. Actual building up of that idea, or that mere idea, abstract idea of ours into a product, is usually translational research. Once that is done, the product which is built there has to be tested. Once that product is tested, and it is actually, say for example, the simple example that I would take in medical devices is the hand crutches. Like, people walk with supports. The people who can't walk, they will take two stick type of a devices. They will be holding them in two hands. They would be taking the support of that device and slowly walk. Now, the people, for the first time, if they have come up with an idea that they would give a supporting stick which could be held by both arms and it could be helping in walking. So it is only, I would tell that, I would construct a device which is easy for the people to hold it inside within the two, instead of placing them under arms and just taking the support. Right. So my basic design of the device that I draw is basically the basic research. Now, I would search upon what metals, like what materials I'm going to implement that could actually, basic methodology could resist the breakage, that could give enough support, that could also be light, but at the same time should not cause people to stumble down or fall forward. Right. So the balancing of the device along with the material of the device, I have to take care, and then I will have to build a product. After I prepare the product, then I would go for product demonstration. I would just test it. Say for example, if it breaks for the weathers, if it breaks for the strength testing and things like that, I carry on. And that is good. My the model that I did in lab is sufficient good to be pushed forward. Then I would also license it, either by collaborating with partners, or we also could do it by pushing the costs. The licensing, either do it if it is in India or at countries, there would be grants given by the federal, or for us the DST projects are there. Like, there would be certain departments who would be funding for these projects as well. So it could be a licensing out, or you seek funds and then collaboratively work, or you could license it co-jointly with another and then work. So there are models of licensing as well that we could talk of. Usually IP is the one which is licensed out, but there could be other materials as well. If they do not have a patent, or it is only a trade secret that they wanted to, license it, it could be done. In one of the cases where I did my RTT, professor was from reputed Western universities. In their lab, he was actually doing in a technology transfer cell. He actually walked upon in a biology lab. The people, all the students at that time were in their lab viewing the shade of a cell by viewing it in the microscope. He just out of curiosity just went and looked at how these cells are and things like that. So he saw the fluorescent dye which was put in the cell. It design kind of thing. Though my professor was not a particularly biologist in nature, the design fascinated him. What he did was, he asked if they could capture that as a pic. The students, and he soon took that pic, went to a nearby store which could actually print the ties. Then he asked, I have beautiful designs and it was all the abstract painting that one could expect if they stain the cell and view it in the microscope. Then he said that I have all abstract designs. We would be giving that to you, and we would, want you to print that on your Tyson cell. And they agreed. So it was that sort of a licensing that happened. It was rather, and in some cases it could be copyrights, where the copyright actually would be the actual thing which could be licensed out. And sometimes it could be the know-how of the technology. Simply carrying out a procedure also could be exchanged or licensed out. So licensing is again a vast topic, and it has several components and several things to it. There's could be after the invention is out from the lab, it could either go in the form of spin-outs. Now, spin-outs are those companies which are started by their own students. So their own students who developed might take up that idea and take it as a company. So this is called spin-out. These universities where the research is happening, external party could come up. They could conceive this idea and start up. Right? That is a startup. Or existing companies could actually, this or any of the market. So basically, the stakeholder groups could be either the technology producers, and the producers of those technology could be independent investors, the researchers in universities as well, because sometimes the research of the earlier would become the basis for the research of the present investigator. And from then the studies could start. Stage. It could be state laboratories or any private, or for instance, I told you the federal labs also could actually be the technology producers. The technology consumers would be either the private sector or the government agencies or any consultants as well. And also the product consumers also could be one of the stakeholder group. The product producers, like the manufacturers, could also be one of the stakeholder group who would assist in transferring the technology from lab to market. Now, there could be government agencies like the resource providers, government agencies, for example, the AMTC and things, institutions like which actually helps for your technologies certain domains, and it could be in and also NRDC in technology transfers. It governmental like institute RDC and KHT as well, or private consultants like us, or any donors or any financial sectors, or it could be angel investors and people like that who could actually assist you in taking the technology from lab to market. Usually when academic institutions are studied, they are always considered to be the power of knowledge and inventions. The translation of this particular research into marketplace is relatively very new to them, because it altogether requires a separate, it altogether requires a separate methodology, because for any commercialization or any lab to market travel, the first thing that people do is there would be a particular cell called as tech transfer office that would acquire technologies. So whosoever actually invents or whosoever works on a particular technology, they would actually be giving their technology to this TTO office, tech transfer office. This tech transfer office would take time to adapt to that particular technology. So they will receive the inventions or the technology, they will adapt to that, they will pick up the parties or the companies that could actually, they would map the companies and the probable buyers of this particular technologies. They would map them. After mapping them, they would do a pitching, like how you do for startup pitching. The similar way, we prepare a sheet, a pitch card kind of card is what we call sales card kind of a thing that we would take to the investors or to the parties, interested parties who could buy this. and then display that and talk about that. So there could be various components as to how the costs are being projected and things like that. So it's altogether a new venture for academic institutions. That is the reason why there is always a gap. But it is not very hard that people couldn't travel. The other thing is they often are into a struggle of balancing activities between job preparation, research, and things like that. So this could add up. The other thing is good is always not good enough. There are two reasons why it is not good. The first thing, as I told you, inventors usually or the academic inventions or the research usually is not done with the purpose of sale. It is done mostly with the purpose good to the community. Say, for example, in science, they find out that a particular gene is actually causing, the traces of cancer, for instance, or a particular a particular concentration of one of the things in our body actually is resulting in probable, probable chances of having a disease. When they invent that, nobody is going to pay them, or no patent is also going to come in their lane. It is only the patents are earned if they say that one of the protein or one of the hormone growth is what is causing you this disease. The people who regulate that protein, the people who regulate that hormone actually are the ones who are going to get the patent if it is new, but not for the ones where the discoveries are made. So that is one of the major reasons why, though the science is good, it is not enough to take you or to take the travel from a lab to market. Point one. The other point here is, if at all, there was a survey conducted at the Western countries, and they say that if inventors or academicians are made businessmen and they wanted to release a product, they would take enough time to remodel their product, and work on refinement and making it to be released in them. These two things are there. In the interest of time, I'll just run fast. So the basic process of lab to market is initial disclosure at least, or a provisional patent have to be filed. Of the innovation usually is done. There is a difference innovation evaluation and innovation. I'll tell you that in the next slide. And the market discovery, the IP, if a patent or a copyright, so at least intervene. What are the like the things which would help that particular basic thought of yours? There could be allied patents which support the actual patents as well. And then the product development, the licensing, prototyping, and then the launch of the technology in the market. So what are the best practices? We have academic institutions under which are funded by funds in the Western countries named as IEH, like Innovation Economic Prosperity Institutions is what they call. So they are innovative hubs supported by finance and which are doing very good. So innovation, economic prosperity, they're just progressing and then making good out of their regime, right? So they actually follow some best practices. So some of these is the culture, the effective cultures are established within the institutes. They would give the professors enough time to do the research. They would, and if at all their research proves to be good, they would be given nice infrastructure, good labs, good support financially and structural wise, incentivized. They would have mentors at each and every stage available at the college level itself. And their own faculties could always be their champions or protectors. So just estimate the level of expertise that the faculty itself themselves have when they take up such roles. And also, what does this give? So they say that effective collaborations, whenever we talk about technology transfers, whenever we talk to, say for example, now one of the college is very good, it is a medicine college, a Simply Pharma college that conducts research on the data. And there is another technical university, that which is there, where the skill set of playing with data is their actual thing. So these two join together particular project and develop, take the data from the inventions, and do the work on that particular data, and then come up with a good study. So effective collaborations, it could be cross sector. As I told you, it is a pharma and a software guy who actually would do, or it could be internal collaborations, department to department. It could be with other universities. Well, it could be research labs and industry. But networking is one of the things that fosters the growth. They would know what several researches are being going on, how the funds are coming in. You would know lot number of information which actually helps you in various stages. Then what are the breakdowns in industry collaborations? Usually negotiation power is very, very less when it comes to negotiations that these academic institutions do with the industry. I told you about IEP, so it is about their study. And misaligned cultures, difficulty in communications, and this is always a perceived problem. The bureaucracy and red tape, yes, there exists everywhere. There is a less incidence of technology not mature, because technology maturity usually is linked with within the research cell here. The overhead and other costs too high, it is very negligible, because the grants, if at all they are there here, now like in the Western countries, the part of the grant would go to the like and also to the institute as well, right? So grants are good in terms of bearing all your costs and providing you all the amenities. They just want you to just indulge in your research and come up with inventions. There are certain policies. Whenever if something good research happens, there are several policies to promote the people, to extend the leave from federal grants, gaps in funding which could be dealt with and things like that. Asset and infra, the research and the tech part very good funded, because once you commercialize the technology or show the probable return on investment, return of that particular investment, then you would actually invest more on that. Incubators and accelerators supports as well. So technology transfer, it's just transferring the technology. It is, as I told you, always a collaborative. The creators, the and its regulations, the research institutions' own amenities are being used for the public good, right? So the transfers, the private parties which are there in this game actually all together form a intra-owned structure to come out of it. And why do we do this? To earn funds for further research, or to develop a particular technology for producing, for manufacturing, or for distribution, it could depend. And who are all the parties that you could do the tech transfer to? It could be companies, small or large, spin-off startups, cross research entities, and consultants. But mind you, technology transfer always does IP evaluation and valuation. Both of them differ, because in IP evaluation, it is the market study and how the forecasting of the market, the penetration, and everything are being calculated here. Whereas in IP evaluation, it is only the costs, the numeric values that one has to evaluate. Technology transfer, there are two types. Either you would license, and in license you will have exclusive and non-exclusive. It could be assignment transfer is like property. You say So technology transfer, if assignment is transferred, you are selling off that particular patent or the particular technology from that university. Usually universities do not normally encourage that due to several other factors. But licensing is the generally done thing. Licensing could be exclusive, it could be non-exclusive. If it is exclusive, then the hold on the technology, like even for manufacturing, even only the licensee will have, right? And if it is non-exclusive, for to how many people license go, including the one who owns it. And usually, like R&D phases, I told you here, R&D, if you take SMEs or the venture capitalists, usually it is very rare, except in very few cases, that the people get funds over here. If it is SMEs, then they would usually depend on venture capitalists, because they're smaller firms, they couldn't take that early technology phase risks, or they couldn't take the cost of development. And if it is a big large, they would form partners with the R&Ds, or they would do joint R&D partnerships or strategic alliances. And at a phase, the ascent phase, usually it depends on the competing technologies and the vital life that actually plays a stronger role there. Usually strongly patented technologies extends the duration period. Licensing in maturity phase, it is also very less commonly seen. Usually A is seen to be more license free. M is a zone where it reaches a maturity, right? The technology is matured enough and it is stable. It is just a remunerative income that it could have. It depends on the market studies as well, as I told you. The licensing at a decline phase, well, it is one in 100 cases that we usually hear about such a decline phase investments. So this is about the initial phases of the. So thank you all for your patient listening. I know I have crossed the time, 10 minutes. If there are any questions, I would just answer.
Thank you so much for a wonderful this lecture for us. Especially, we are about to start some collaborative work with Skill Industry as well as incubation centers. It's already participating in different types of startup Saturdays, etc.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Some of them are already participating in startup Saturdays, and 2 to 3
Wow.
groups already went to JPU hackathons, etc.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Sir, your voice again is breaking off.
Registered in medical. Am I audible?
Yeah. Now we are audible, sir. I'm again unable to hear you, sir. Hello. Your voice is breaking, sir, actually. Hello. Hello. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So I think in the meanwhile, can I take one of the questions from Hemant Mudunuru? I think he just raised his hand.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. If there are any questions, sir, I would just like to take them. Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir? Am I audible, sir? Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Sachin, sir. On behalf of management and principal of RIT REC, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Mrs. HIMA Garu, Managing Director, Novel Patent Services, for availing your valuable time for this informative session. By attending this session, we gain knowledge and making our innovative thoughts into commercial products and importance of commercialization of ideas. And by the example of one example of a woman who did an experiment in her lab, which was commercialized later and turned royalty to her, really motivated us and improved our passion towards innovation, ma'am. Thank you once again for making an innovative session and increasing the innovative thoughts and the intensity to make more innovative thoughts. Thank you so much, ma'am. I take this as a great opportunity to thank our beloved chairman, Sri Raghu Kalidandi Garu, our director, Sri Raghu Kalidandi Garu, and our secretaries for their continuous engagement in all aspects. Dr. S. Satyanarayan Garu, Principal RIT, and Dr. C.H. Srinivas Garu, Principal of REC. I also thank Dr. Chaudhary Garu, IIC President, Vice Principal, standing as a strong support always. I extend my heartfelt thanks to the team, Institute Innovation Council of both RIT and REC, and all the faculty and students for making this event successful. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all once again. Yeah, for this patient listening, I would. Thank you so much, sir. Nice meeting you. Thank you, sir. Bye.